Hello,
Hello.
and welcome to Sean Ruins Fitness. I'm here with my friend Dan, and my name is Sean Johnson. I am owner of JRT Fit and J Range Training, fellow with the National Board of Fitness Examiners, and we're going to take a deep look, sometimes, into the different aspects of fitness, and we're going to basically talk about all the myths, and we're going to bust those myths with the different discussions we have. Sometimes we'll have discussions, sometimes we'll have debates, sometimes we'll do interviews. So if you have an opinion that is different than mine or Dan's, that's great.
That's
Love to
just
have you
tough.
on the show, and we'll see how it goes.
They're going to have opinions of their own?
Why, yeah, that's the whole idea.
You never told me they were going to have their own opinions.
Oh, really?
No.
Is that going to be a problem
I'm
at
out
all?
of here, man.
Oh, I'm sorry. You can even have your own opinion. That's totally
Can I
cool.
have my own opinion?
Yeah. Do you want an opinion?
I'd like to, only if you give it to me.
Where do we start? Do I have to go find it somewhere? Do I have
throw me an
to
idea.
give you a note card and
Give
say,
me like
this
a
is your
little-
opinion?
little cheat sheets.
Yeah. How about we just go with, it's your opinion? And that's totally good.
I like that. It's your opinion.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll go with that. So it's going to be your opinion, and that's fine. We have our opinions. We're going to go with our opinions. So we're going to talk a little bit about my opinion on the muscle confusion idea, and we might talk a little bit about the whole P90X series. Does that sound like kind of fun? Kind of doing a little
that's
review?
The Horton.
Yeah, Tony
the
Horton.
Dr. Seuss guy.
Dr. Seuss guy.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
Horton's Who's and, Horton, right? Yeah, that guy. Yeah, I know who you mean.
Dr. Seuss wrote about him so long ago. My goodness,
gives you
when
an
was
idea.
that?
Back in 1861 when I was a kid.
1861. Back when the dinosaurs roamed the earth.
Yeah, I rode one to school actually.
Oh, well, that's
I did,
pretty good.
yeah.
You didn't roll uphill both ways?
In the snow.
In the
Yeah.
So, Tony Horton. That's pretty funny. My favorite Dr. Seuss book is totally the
Fox in the box.
Fox and Socks. How'd you
Fox and
know?
Socks.
How'd you know?
Just went with it.
Oh my gosh! You looking at my personal reading list?
Not as far as you know.
All right. So we're going to talk about, first let's talk about muscle confusion, because that's a big idea that is promoted. I don't think that Tony actually came up with it himself, but I think he's one of the biggest perpetuators of the, we'll call it myth of muscle confusion. So muscle confusion, what's that sound like to you?
It's just it sounds like they're not responding to what you want them to do. They're
being confused.
yes. Bottom line, I mean,
Well, the principle behind muscle confusion is that you change up your workout basically on a weekly basis. So you do different exercises in order to make sure that essentially your body doesn't hit a plateau. And the question is whether that actually works, if there's any science that backs it or anything else. And we're just going to have a little bit of a discussion about this, but I like to bring logic into it. I like to first bring logic, then we'll talk more about the science stuff. So logically speaking, let's talk about something that pertains maybe to it, but you wouldn't think would, like sports. So do you do any sort of activity sports?
absolutely. I'm a fanatical skier. I love to ski, snowboard, mono ski.
Nice.
Mountain biking, not the best at it. I'm pretty good at crashing.
You're good at crashing?
I practice.
Do you practice crashing?
I do.
Yeah.
Especially, head overs.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I refuse to give in, and I run with my kids, and they're usually, my kids are much younger than me, and they push harder, and I don't.
Oh, okay.
So
Well,
they
that's
get
good.
in it, and
Trying to keep up with them, and
I try to keep up with them. But
Nice.
skiing, they try to keep up with me.
so
The rest is.
So you're better at skiing. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about skiing. If we'll say that you want to be a competitive skier and you want to, I don't know, we'll say you want to do moguls just for argument's sake. So you want to be a competitive mogul skier. Are you going to use the same skis all the time, or are you going to switch them up constantly?
If you're going to be skiing moguls, you probably want to use the same skis that you're going to compete with. That way you're very familiar with them when you hit the hill.
Right. And I would agree with that. And I think that's generally the case with almost anything. Even with mountain biking, I guess, we could take a look at the size of the actual mountain bike, the weight, the way it feels, the suspension, the seat, everything like that.
Ride what you're familiar
When
with.
something feels different, you start thinking about that and you don't think about as much what's actually happening, and,
No
and you may
distractions.
not see the turn properly, and you may not take it with the most
Or
efficiency.
feel it
Yeah,
properly.
right. Absolutely. I'd agree
Yeah.
with that. So, yeah, that sounds basically that goes right along with my point. And I don't care if you're a golfer, you wouldn't change your club constantly. If any professional golfer basically expects that if they change their clubs that they're going to be terrible for at least 6 months. And that's the idea, because we need to teach precision. We have to get better at something. And that's no different in the gym at all. That's absolutely no different in the gym. We have to actually get good at the movements. In fact, the very first adaptations that your body actually gives you benefit from is neurological. It's actually your mind to muscle connection improves.
Mm-hmm.
And that mind to muscle connection is called your neuromuscular pathway, but increasing that connection actually makes you stronger. And that's actually what's thought to give you the initial strength gains that you notice in a gym.
Well, it's also a coordination. Because I
Absolutely.
fly fish a lot.
Absolutely.
And if you're right-handed like me, you'll notice one shoulder better than another.
Yeah,
And you learn the trick and your coordination
sure.
and the movement. And after a while, that's you do just that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you want to get more precise with that movement. You want to make it feel more natural. And if you do that with an exercise like a bench press, push up, whatever it is, pull up, then you get a lot better at it. Now, it obviously helps to think about it. It helps to actually think about the contractions. According to the research, if you think about your contractions, you actually contract up to 600% more.
Really?
So, yeah.
How'd they come up with 600%?
I mean, that's what they tested in the actual study.
Was this like in a Swiss studio, like in the mountains, like an evil doctor?
Yeah,
Like on the top of a mountain, he was holding this cat, scratching its belly.
Yeah, I think I like that visual better.
Do you?
Yeah, I do.
Really?
When I picture a lab, I don't picture that at all, to be honest. But yeah, that's
Evil,
way more fun. Yeah,
holding
Dr.
your cat.
Evil with the.
Yes.
That's good. That's good. I like that. No, so the question is, what's a good way to keep from hitting plateaus? And so let's talk a little bit about what it takes in the gym. Okay, so you want to work on something that actually makes it harder, right? You want to overload. That's the term that we use. We call it progressive overload. And some of the best athletes in the world, or the top athletes in the world, that's a better way of saying that, actually use progressive overload compared to a muscle confusion idea of always switching things up. So what is overload?
Doing more than it should have. I mean, you're picking
more
up,
than you should have creates injury. So let's not go there.
Well, no, what I meant is if you're used to picking up 3 bricks at a time, now you're bringing up 5 bricks at a time.
Yeah, absolutely. Or 4.
Or 4.
Or
yes.
2 or 3.5. I said 2.5. That's wrong.
Yeah.
3.5 more than 3. And that's the idea, is you're increasing that. Now that's just increasing the total volume that you're lifting.
Right. The weight.
At once, the total resistance. But you can also change it in different ways. So you have frequency, time, type as well. So you have how often you're working something, how many sets that you're doing, maybe how many repetitions you're doing, how much rest that you're giving it between, whether you add in supersets, things like that. There are numerous different ways to actually change it up without changing it up.
Right.
And you could actually do the same thing for a long period of time without actually hitting a plateau if you're changing things constantly. And I know that sounds like a paradoxical statement.
No, actually, it makes sense. It stretches it because it's not always the same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
So instead of
you're doing the same exercises, and the specific exercises that someone should do is based on what that person's capabilities are. Meaning that you may have muscle imbalances that make it so that you shouldn't do this specific exercise, where someone else can do that exercise just fine. And so the person who's doing what they should be doing in the exercise, that's great, and they can keep working on improving that. Whereas if someone comes over here and they do what they shouldn't be doing, then obviously they're just going to lead to an eventual injury with that. And that can be because of numerous different muscle imbalances, overactive adductors, for example, underactive glute medius. That's a very common one with squats, for example.
Gluteus?
Gluteus medius.
That's where?
Side butt muscle.
Okay.
What were you thinking?
That's exactly what I was thinking.
That's what are you thinking? Well,
yeah.
I don't know if I want to know what's on your mind there. So,
my mind is in the Bahamas.
Oh, good.
Gluteus minimus.
Gluteus. Well, I didn't say minimus at all. I said medius. No, you have the minimus, medius, and maximus.
I know I like the minimus.
The minimus.
Yeah.
I don't think we're talking about the same thing right now.
No, I've drifted off there for a moment.
Okay, let's come back. Let's come back.
All right.
Gluteus medius works in the frontal plane to the side.
Okay.
Sagittal plane, gluteus maximus.
Okay.
Anyway, so yeah, and that was a fun tangent, but we got to come back to the whole overload thing. So we're talking about overload, trying to explain how or why overload is important. And the reality is that you and I and you both, like everyone, we always follow a very simple thing called the path of least resistance.
Especially those of you that are married.
Do explain.
Explain. Less headaches, more garage time, lock the door from the outside. They can't get in. No, the path of least resistance. It's easier. Boom.
Absolutely.
And after you get a little older, you want everything. You want to reduce everything, make it as easy as possible, because it all boils down to how can I make life easier?
That's right. And I'm here to tell you that that's the wrong philosophy in the gym.
It is.
We want the path of most resistance, because what we want is we want to essentially create failure in whatever we're lifting against. Now, it doesn't matter what your goal is. Your goal could be limit strength, like powerlifting. It could be fat loss. Endurance.
Like for skiers.
Absolutely.
You don't want to burn out at 1 o'clock. And
so obviously what you're overloading is going to be different. So someone who's skiing, for example, isn't going to benefit as much doing a strength pyramid where they do very few repetitions and they take a lot of rest time. They would improve their limit strength that way, but that's not going to help them in the way that they're wanting to get help. Whereas that helps someone that just basically wants to do powerlifting or wants to do a lifting competition or wants more limit strength in general in life. Whereas I think most people want something that deals with endurance, just because most of life and most of sports kind of deal.
Endurance is important in a lot of ways.
Absolutely.
Whether you're walking the river, walking into the river, riding your bike,
sure,
going up.
It'll affect how far you can actually go.
Right. It's important in every way. I mean, even playing chess. Endurance.
Not sure your physical, that's more mental endurance, but I would agree that there are different types of endurance with that. So let's keep it on scale of the gym though. So essentially, if someone wants to improve with endurance or limit strength or hypertrophy, lean body mass, they want to bodybuild, whatever the case is, you want to overload. And so you want to go away from your natural instincts of path of least resistance. You want to go towards path of most resistance. So you have to actually think about the muscles. You have to want to contract them as much as possible. So instead of just thinking about the movement, you think about what muscles are creating that movement. And that actually makes it more effective. It actually gives you a better workout. And on top of that, we want to hit that point of, I can't do anymore. So if we're going for endurance, that could be repetitions that we're going for, or lactate threshold. If we're going for limit strength, it's just ultimate how much I can lift in the certain rep scheme that I'm going for. So you always want to kind of base your goals on what you're doing in the gym, but doesn't matter what your goal is, you have to overload. You have to go off of that.
It doesn't hurt to have somebody else who's in the same boat with you to push you along.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's the accountability aspect.
I find that doing it by yourself, you get to a point and you go, oh, that's all I can do.
Absolutely.
And who's going to argue with you? Versus if you have your bud with you or a friend or somebody who says, I don't think so.
Or better yet, how about a trainer? Someone who actually
trainer?
understands how to actually overload
Agreed.
properly without
Absolutely.
actually leading to injury.
A trainer is probably the best way, in my opinion, to get it, because your friend will look at you and go,
And of
you
course,
know
I
what?
am a trainer, so I have a huge bias there. But
Yep. And with a friend, you look at him and go, I'm worn out. And they go, yeah, me too. Let's go get a beer.
well, what I've actually noticed is when people have accountability partners, and one of those accountability partners says, "Well, I'm not going to make it this day," it all falls apart.
True.
It all starts falling apart. You're like, well, I'll do that next time, and I'll skip this next one too because they did, and it
Yep.
becomes less of that. And when you actually have an appointment, then that actually helps. But that actually leads us back to the Tony Horton stuff because a lot of people like the accountability of doing it themselves, where they do something at home and wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, whatever it is, and kind of set a routine of, okay, I'm going to watch this video, I'm going to follow it, I'm going to do this,
Hmm.
and to make sure that I actually get it done. And that mentality completely makes sense to me. I understand that.
That's a very disciplined way. A lot of people are very undisciplined.
That's very true. And I would argue that it actually will lead to injury for not maybe every person and not maybe most people, but at least quite a high number of people. And the reason for that is, how do you know if your form's right? Even if Tony Horton is telling you exactly the right form, the exact form that you should follow, and he's 100% right with it, and doing his way is going to help you the most, how do you know you're doing it the way he's explaining it? Is anyone watching you?
Point.
Right? I mean, maybe the government. I don't know. But
No, they would never be. The government would never watch you.
what? But yeah, I mean, cameras, you never know. But
No. Don't let that fool you. Big Brother would never be watching you.
No, they wouldn't
Street
do
corners
that.
and lampposts. No.
Of course not. But obviously, no one would be watching you to make sure to correct you if you're doing something incorrectly, or if your muscle imbalances are forcing you to do something correctly when it actually feels correct to you. So that's one of the big issues I have with that, is that you can't do that. You cannot assess yourself. I cannot assess myself.
What if you were able to have your camera set up and you were doing it, and then you could send this to your trainer and say, is this correct? Or your trainer is watching multiple screens going, you're correct, you need to adjust this.
Sure. And the biggest issue with that is, am I going to watch your whole workout? Because chances are when you get tired, you're going to change your form. So
True.
you may get all prepped and show me your best form ever, and then it totally slips and I tell you it's great, and then you hurt yourself anyway. So there are a lot of issues with that where,
Good. Yeah, I mean, it's like skiing.
yeah,
You start out in
exactly.
the morning, you're tight, you're good, you're moving, everything is crisp. And as you wear on, you get a little looser.
If you're not properly trained.
If you're not properly trained, I mean, I've been skiing for 50 years. I was with ski school, ski patrol. I
Nice.
learned how to do it. But even after 50 years,
But I mean trained like endurance wise. So even if you just go to the ski you only work out while you're skiing. You don't come to the gym to prep. You don't actually work yourself up to it. So you stop in the spring and you start again in the fall or the winter.
yeah,
I mean, that's a lot of time of not working out, and you're going to have a lot of basically atrophy and everything else.
your muscles
that
that are
time.
used to doing those movements are
Exactly.
not.
Yeah.
That's
Precisely.
why hiking to me, I find works good. Because we do bouldering, you jump from one rock to the next, never touching the trail. You just
Sure.
jump from rock to rock to rock, and I find that it helps with your balance. But
And how do you know your knee's in the right position?
when you fall, it either hurts or you don't jump as far.
When you land, you're actually supposed to make sure that your knee is in line with the second to third toe. Precisely.
Well, I have not been doing that.
If you land with your knee in from that at all, you add stress to your ACL, your anterior cruciate ligament.
I'm usually going for landing on the front of my feet.
Well, landing softly is good, but your traction of your knee actually makes a big difference as well. So you can land on your toe and land softly where your heel doesn't strike, which is great. but then this knee still could go out too far, could go right in line, or could go in. And generally speaking, when what I've observed from my clientele, almost no one does that properly without the proper training.
I see that perfectly. I know I never thought of it. I jump, I land.
Right. Yeah. I found that that actually makes a big difference when even people step up their stairs or down their stairs in their house as
Truly
well.
does.
So, and a lot of people don't actually think about that at
And
all.
if your knees hurt in any way,
Sure.
you deliberately will avoid certain ways down. Like if you see a ramp versus steps, you will take a ramp if your knee hurts.
Absolutely.
That's why I add those supplements to my iced tea for joint support,
Right.
and my knees feel better
Good.
continuously, and I use stuff, and I'm always out on the river. I'm always out doing something, hiking, biking, fishing, and it requires me to jump from rock to rock
Sure.
or from
Sure.
here to there.
We're gonna have to look at your jumping. Maybe we'll do that with a couple of videos and
Yeah.
see how you normally land, and then kind of explain to everyone how to correct it. That kind of sounds
I
like
would
fun
be
with a different.
That would be great because a
different
lot of
video thing.
people in Colorado do what I do.
Sure.
And a lot
Absolutely.
of people are my age here in Colorado doing what I do. They want
Absolutely.
to keep bike riding. They want to keep fishing. They want to ski, but knee issues give them.
Absolutely. Make it
When
really
you have a knee
difficult.
pain problem, you slow down.
And the best way to fix any of those knee issues is in the gym with the proper training. That's one of the important things. So let's head back though to Tony Horton and the P90X series. So I have to admit that I've seen the first P90X series. I haven't watched his newer version of his videos yet. I would like to, and I can critique that as well. His original videos, he actually explained something, which is the knee to toe principle when it comes to a lunge, where you don't want to bring the knee past the toe. And that is the proper principle, although I generally teach to keep the knee directly over the ankle when you're doing a lunge instead. I think that's even better for the knee. But what he stated was correct in the industry. So the industry says that's good. And what I noticed, though, is that when he's explaining it, he has a model that's actually doing the lunge exercise, and her knee is going severely past her toe. And then he goes over to the side and looks at it after he explains it, and he says, "Okay, great job." It's like, wait,
That
hold
was
on a
wrong.
second. No, you just
was-
explained that that's not how you do it.
And she did it anyway.
And she did it, and you looked at it, and you said, "Great job."
He was looking at the gluteus minimus again. Back there again. Whoops, I just slipped back there.
So-
There we go.
You're back at Hawaii, and see,
No.
we're here in the gym. We're back. You got to come back, Dan. We got to come back to
Coming
where
back.
we're at.
All right, I'm back.
Okay, good. So,
Okay. What
so
was it?
you know, I have a little bit of a problem with that because some people are visual learners, some people are auditory learners. So the auditory learner may get it and not even notice that they're doing it incorrectly. The visual learner won't hear any of the words and say, "Oh, that's how I'm supposed to do it. That's interesting." And then they do it like that, and they don't even think
It's true.
about where their actual knee is.
Some people are visual learners. Some people are, you can explain it to them.
Yep.
If
And then you also
fish-
have kinesthetic, of course.
And what was the other one?
Kinesthetic. That means that you learn by doing.
It's true. But I think that a lot of everybody has that.
Uh,
But fly
that-
fishing, you have to learn and watch and watch. Mountain biking, skiing is very big. We did the monkey see, monkey do thing. I'd ski. I'd have 6, 7, 8 little kids, 4 to 10-year-old behind me. Monkey see, monkey do, and I'd yell, "Left foot up, right foot up, left foot up,"
and following everyone.
and follow me, ski
Well,
on my tails.
From my own personal experience, I don't think everyone has each one of the learning styles. I think that there are some people that have all of them. There are some more people that have at least 2 of them. But I have met people that are basically more visual than anything else, or basically more auditory than anything else. So
Mhm. Yeah.
I would say that that can be a little
A
bit different,
visual
but-
thing I find to be very helpful for me is I pick up things quickly. I watch very intently.
Yeah.
The movement of their wrist,
And then you do it.
movement of their elbow,
In order
movement
to
of their
figure it out.
arm, where they're standing, how they're standing.
So you may be more visual and kinesthetic.
And I'm very particular on what makes me happy.
Sure.
If I'm skiing, that makes me happy. If I'm mountain biking, hiking,
Absolutely.
fishing. I am very intent on watching.
So you would probably notice the video. That'd be interesting to see if
Yeah.
you watched it, if you'd pick that up if I hadn't just said it. Like if you watch it right now, of course, it's going to be, oh yeah, that's what he's mentioning. So it's already over. We can't do that. Experiment done. But anyways, overall, the truth is about his program is that you lose weight, you get in better shape because of the diet that they actually put in. They claim it's the muscle confusion stuff that they're pushing, but then they put you on a low carb diet. And we don't have time to talk about low carb diets or other diets in this podcast, so we'll definitely have to make another one that talks specifically about that. But that's the reason, the main reason for the people getting those results. Now, they're going to get stronger because they're working out.
Yeah.
And they'll get stronger with the specific things that they're specifically working on. But that's not why they're losing weight. It's not because of the workout that they're losing weight. And I think that's what a lot of people believe.
Well,
They get the program because the working out will help them lose weight. And it has to be a combo anyway, but there's a specific reason their specific diet. Oh, I just smacked this plant next to me.
Isn't that just like the government? They tell you one thing but do another. Seriously, okay, we're going to work you out, make you think.
I think
about
that's
this.
people in general
We're gonna
sometimes.
squeak this on in.
I think that's people in general, the lackadaisical attitude that some people have.
It's changing the way they think.
Yeah.
They change the way they are.
Exactly. So long and short, I'm not going to recommend necessarily the P90X. I think that the P90X series is something that will get someone stronger, but you risk a lot of injury with it. And there's really no way to keep yourself accountable on the actual form that you have. And you could video it yourself, but then you'd have to actually know what the form's supposed to look like at the same time. Mm-hmm. And that's a lot of extra time that I know people don't want to waste as well. So any series like that's kind of a one-size-fits-all approach. I'm not huge on one-size-fits-all approaches. Absolutely everyone that I train, I do a completely customized workout based on a muscle balance assessment that I start them with. And that's really what I think that everyone needs, because your body, like, you can tell me one thing. You can say, I want to achieve these certain goals, and that's great. And we can work towards those goals, but I need to listen to your body as well as what you're telling me. And your body might be telling me something else than what you realize, because of course you don't know what your muscle imbalances are and overactive and underactive muscles. So thanks for joining us today on Sean Ruins Fitness. And
I know what underactive muscles I have. I've got a lot of them.
Were you in Hawaii when you were just saying that, or is it?
I'm in the Bahamas.
Oh, in the Bahamas. Okay,
yeah,
I was just making sure.
Yellow bikinius.
Oh my goodness! All right, well, thank you. Love to have you join us next time for our next podcast. Have a great day, and have a great, healthy life.
Yep, that's what he said.